Hi, welcome back to my reading corner. Grab yourself a cozy blanket, or maybe a cozy pillow, or maybe both. So we have been reading When the Dandelions Sing. Today we are on chapter 3, The Story. Chasing my brother Davy and his friends Mac and Howard was frustrating, but I was determined not to give up. Little by little, I would find ways to inch closer and closer to them as they glided down the street with their leather baseball mitts, wooden bats, and a ball, heading towards the field to play ball until the sun went down. I would wait just up the road some and spring out when they got close enough, feeling as if one day, any day now, they would relent and just let me tag along. "Jasper, go home. You're too small to play with us. And besides, Grammy needs you to do your chores and keep her company," he said, as he laughed with his buddies. "Davy," I begged. "Come on, Davy, let me play. I can chase the balls you don't want to go after, the ones you hit real hard and that roll all the way into the brushy weeds. I can get those ones for you." Howie, as my brother Davy called him, would always try a little for me. "Davy, let him play. Come on. He can chase what we don't want to, and then we can have more time to hit and run. Let him tag along. You hit those dang weeds all the time." "Stop calling me Davy, for one. You know I hate that. Besides, you are only calling me that because my little brother is too dumb to remember my real name. Just because he has names that have no meaning whatsoever doesn't mean I do. I was named after David Crosby, a singer I was named after. My mom picked my name because she liked it, not because she couldn't find a better one." Sometimes I would win, and they would let me tag along. Most times, Davy would win, and I wouldn't. The days I could follow them all the way to the field, I was made to carry the bats and mitts and the balls while they ran side to side, singing and laughing all the way to the field. The bats would drop, and I'd need to pick them up, only to have the mitts drop and then the balls. At the field, I would try to run down those whizzing balls as fast as I could, throwing them back with all my might. It would take me 2, sometimes 3 attempts to get the ball back to where they had been, but I would just keep running, throw, run further, throw. What did I care? I was out in the warm summer sun with Davy and his best pals, chasing dreams and pretending like I was one of them. Or even better yet, a real ball player. Life was good on those days, even when Davy would throw the ball as hard as he could in the wrong direction just to watch me run. He was trying to make it so I would not want to play and just give up, but I didn't care. I would drop my head and just run as fast as my legs would take me in the opposite direction, chasing down the heavy ball, picking it out of the overgrown weeds and thorny bush, and fling it back high into the air. Davy was watching me, and I felt that, although he would never tell me, he was proud that I was not giving an inch. Back at home, Janet and I would switch up doing the supper dishes. Mostly, though, she would wash and I would dry. It was hard for me, being smaller, to reach the ones in the back of the sink, so Janet would just say, "Don't tell Grammy we didn't switch. We can just keep this between us, Ronnie, okay?" She was always understanding and good to me. Maybe because she was older. Maybe because she and Davy didn't always get along. Davy was always angry and storming off when he didn't feel much like talking. Janet was quiet, kind, just a good-natured person all around. She knew I struggled to play with Davy and his friends. She knew all I wanted to do was fit in with my brother and the boys, to feel like part of a club or a group that had my back and I would have theirs. She knew. That's why I liked her so much. She understood me, and she was always telling me that my day would come when it would be my turn to shine and stand alone, my turn to stand out from the crowd, and my turn to be in charge. I wanted to believe her, but that just seemed so far away. I wanted that here and now, but I knew she was right. Maybe I would just need a whole heaping lot of patience. Thelma Louise was the oldest of us four, and therefore she was not around much. When she was home, she was up in her room or sneaking out the back door to go meet some boy she had met at school, or running off to just escape it all. She didn't talk much to me, but she was so much older, and we had nothing really in common, but she was still good. She never yelled at me. She would ask me to sneak out one of Mum's cigarettes occasionally, and I would. Mama knew she had smoked before and scolded her good, but that didn't stop Thelma Louise. She just found better ways to hide it. Excuse me. She would keep a bottle of mouthwash in her purse and gargle it before she came in. She would hide a change of clothes in the plywood shed out back and switch her outfit before she entered the house. Mama never caught that because she was too busy working and trying to get us back out on our own again. She had a good job, but she still had trouble making ends meet sometimes, even when Grammy helping any way she could. I sat with Grammy one evening on the porch and asked her about my name. I told her that Davy was making fun of me because I had been named after no one in particular, and she would just tell me that Davy was going through a phase and he would come out of it just fine. She told me that other people's opinions of me were not my business, and I shouldn't worry myself about what people thought of me or my name. Besides, how many people had Junior at the end of their name, even though they were not named for a particular person? I mean, that was something to find special. To want to show off. It meant that I had something others didn't. I was a junior, even though I was not. Davy couldn't claim that. He was named after some singer Mama had never ever met. I had 4 names: Ronnie, Jefferson, McFarlane, Jr. Never have I thought of it like that, but she was onto something. I had more names than Davy. One of those names was a president. Maybe Ronnie was a different type of name, but it was mine. It was not Ronald. It was not Donald. They may have used Ronnie as a nickname, but I owned this name. I was Ronnie without having to shorten it. Plus, I was a junior, even though I had no idea what that meant. I still was. Jasper, listen to Grammy. You should always be proud of who you are and what your name is. It says a lot about you, boy. I didn't give nicknames to any of the other grandkids, just you. You are my little Jasper, and that's a very good thing. Don't let Davy or any of those other neighborhood boys make you feel bad about that. Jasper is who you are to me. And I don't give out names lightly. Granddad knows you are a Jasper, too. He just lets that be my name for you. It was and is very special to me, and he knows that. You may be Ronnie to him, but to me, Jasper. When you are 30 and mature and have a family of your own, you will still be Jasper to me. Don't you ever forget that. You hear? Then she winked. I won't, Grammy. I won't. Then I would ask questions, more questions, because I just always wanted to know everything. My mind worked in a different way than it did for Davy. He was only interested in what was going on in the right now. How many strikeouts Nolan Ryan had thrown the night before, or who was playing the Reds that night. Knowing about his family, his life, what had happened before him that allowed him to be wherever he was at the moment was not on his radar, but it was on mine. I wanted to know it all. Grammy, tell me what happened to Granddad again. You know, back when you was married, living in that apartment before you moved to this place. Tell me that story. I didn't need to elaborate. Grammy knew the story I was referring to. She knew I had a curiosity for how Granddad had gotten in trouble and how it turned his life around. How he had not come home that evening or for a time to come, and how he somehow ended up here in this house, the very one we were sitting on the step of. Grammy told the story a half a dozen times, and I knew it well, but I liked the way she told it. She told me as if she knew I was all eyes on her, my ears open fully, and my heart pounding against my chest as she began. Oh, Jasper, the story. Well, sure, I'll tell you the story, but then you need to go wash up and get ready for bed. You hear? We have a big day tomorrow. I sat down on the rust-colored wood planked porch, crossed my legs Indian style, and put my hands under my chin to hold it up as I listened to Grammy tell it. Granddad was out having his one beer, the allowance I kept in his wallet for the day. He usually was able to get the bartender to give him another round by arm wrestling some other big sap steel worker who had had many more beers than he. I guess their wives had yet to figure out my little trick, but Granddad was never one to let someone stop him in how he was going to carry on. While he was walking home, he, for some reason or another, took a detour down Bachman's Alley, just beyond the southern edge of the steel plant. It was getting late, and maybe he just had to take a pee. Maybe he felt like something had pulled him in that direction. Whatever it was, he was now walking down the alleyway, making a short detour before finishing his walk home. It was dark, and there was only one working street lamp in the entire alleyway. Some local kids had used their BB rifles to shoot out the others, but this one hung much higher, and none had been able to knock it out just yet. Grammy pulled her glass a little closer, took the pitcher of lemonade off the table, poured herself a tall glass, and sipped it, looking out to the street in front of the house. As she paused, I looked out to the road. It reminded me of Granddad looking at an empty lot that had once been a marvelous building where some family he knew had lived. Or he had treated some gal he met to ice cream. That look I remembered well, and I always looked with them, hoping to catch a glimpse of what they had seen. After a few moments she continued, but still had her eyes on the road in front of her. Well, anyway, Granddad was walking down the alley when he heard a ruckus going on just about 20 yards away on the opposite side of the steel plant where he was employed, and he went over to investigate. He was slowly approaching, aware that the freshly snow-covered ground had created black ice under his feet, but also that he had no idea of exactly he was about to run into. Plus, only he knew for sure how many beers he had consumed earlier that day. When he was close enough, he peeked through the thin brush hiding the yard from view and saw 3 silhouettes prying the basement doors to what could have been an abandoned house. Grammy paused as though trying to remember the story the exact way Granddad told it. As he told me later, he was going to just walk on and let it be for the cops to handle, but something in his gut pushed him on still. He leaned over the fence just enough to be in view and shouted to the figures to get the hell out of there. Instantly they stopped and turned, facing where Granddad had been, and began to look at one another, hoping that one of them would know what to do. The houses were all oddly attached, and so there was only one way out, and that was where Granddad had been, just on the other side of the fence. They quickly grabbed the tools they were using, and without taking their eyes off Granddad, began to walk his way. Now, Granddad had no way of knowing if these people were going to simply walk on by him, or perhaps come at him aggressively, or if they had maybe owned the place and were simply trying to get in because maybe they'd lost the keys. She took another break, sat back in her chair, looked this time down at the decking of the front porch as if she were wondering if she should stain them again or wait another year, and took another long sip of her glass of lemonade she had in her hands. Well, as luck would have it, it was 3 boys from a neighboring town. They had been searching for vacant homes that were easy to break into, hoping to remove the copper pipes for scrap, I suppose, and whatever else they could find. Granddad had a sense for things like this and was usually right. This time he was dead on. When they got to where he was leaning just over the broken picket fence, two quickly jumped and hightailed it down the snow-covered alley. Excuse me. But one was having trouble. Granddad, by this point, figured he would just help the boy over and let them be on their way. Just stupid kids making stupid decisions, he had thought, and began to reach over to grab the boy and lift him the rest of the way over. The boy must have gotten nervous when he saw Granddad's hands close. He hit him with a piece of jagged steel he had in one of his hands. Granddad was cut from one side of his palm clear to the other and started to bleed real bad. His instinct, combined with the beers he had consumed that evening, caused him to lash aggressively at the boy. He grabbed harder this time, calling the boy a dang fool, and pulled him up and over the fence in one motion. The boy slipped, tumbled over downward, and hit his head on the snow that was covering the hard gravel alleyway. It was not what he had intended to do to this boy at all, but sometimes what we intend to do isn't what happens at all. No, sometimes greater, rougher, more heartbreaking things happen in life than we intend. This was just one of those types of moments. Granddad had more than a few beers that night and was saucy to those around him. That was the word Grandma used, saucy. She had meant that he was drunk, angry, and confused. He had not intended to hurt anyone that night, only to take a little longer walk to possibly sober up some, knowing he wasn't supposed to be drinking, as he had that night. The boy named Frederick Johnson was 13 years old, and although Granddad screamed for help to come, no one had heard. A lot of the street had been vacant for some time. People didn't want to live right alongside the steel plant any longer if they could help it, so they moved farther out when possible. Most had already departed the area, and only a few remained. They, however, either didn't hear Granddad's roaring screams for help or didn't want to get involved. So Granddad picked this small boy up, this Frederick boy, and carried him over his shoulders all the way down the dimly lit alley and over to where the old hospital had been. When he arrived, he laid the boy down on the cold waiting room floor, looked at him, and cried out, "What have I done?" Frederick died late that night, and Granddad was promptly arrested. He didn't fight. He didn't argue. He just went with the officers. The wound to his hand, blood-soaked clothes, and the fact that the boy had a large gash on the top of his head from the sudden fall led the police to believe they had had a fight. And this big man, this oversized, drunk steelworker, had gotten the better of this frail 13-year-old boy. It didn't look good for Granddad, and he didn't protest. He was ashamed and could not collect his thoughts well enough to put together what had really happened. His life had changed in an instant, and he would now always be linked to this horrible tragedy, and the boy's family would be altered forever. He was not coming home, and for the time being, neither was Granddad. And that's the end of chapter 3. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope you'll come back tomorrow for the next chapter. As always, love, Nan.